All right, greetings everyone. My name is Dr. Amina, and we have the fabulous Dr. Gambino here, and we are the co-moderators for this session. Welcome to the International Symposium led by the UNESCO Chair in Democracy, Global Citizenship, and Transformative Education. The title of the symposium is Peace, Culture, and Social Justice. Our symposium includes some 50+ sessions with roughly 150 presenters from more than 35 countries in English, French, Spanish, and Korean. Note that this session is being recorded. It will be live on YouTube the following day.
Additionally, there will also be live interpretation services available courtesy of Pedro Gamboa and his fabulous team of interpreters, for which this conference would not be made possible and accessible globally. Pedro and colleagues, we thank you for your tremendous support. And in just a moment, we do also we'll continue to introduce the rest of our colleagues, but we do want to remind you that please, as ideas arise throughout this riveting presentation, that you will please type your comments and your ideas and questions in the chat. There will be a Q&A at the end of this session, and we'll try to address as many of them as possible. I will now turn it back over to my co-chair, Dr. Amina, to introduce the bios of our fabulous panelists.
Thank you, Dr. Gambino. Technology, you either love it or hate it. And at this moment, I think I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I'm back. So here we go again for our presenters for today. I want to say, number one, I am so very glad to be in community with this group, the Mandela Washington Fellows, Young African Leaders. And so I'm honored today to be able to say, thank you for participating. Now, with that said, our session one, what's going on, Voices from the African Diaspora, Global Issues from Sub-Saharan Africa. And then our second session today, what's going on, the brutalization of Black bodies and the struggle for social justice in the US African diaspora. In this session one, Global Issues from Sub-Saharan Africa, we have presenters Arthur Tanaka, who will discuss anti-trafficking in Zimbabwe. We have Melva, who will address girls and education and inclusion in Nigeria and disability and inclusion in Sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria. We have Ojulua, who will discuss youth, social media, voting, and democracy in Nigeria. And hopefully we'll have Mr. Owini Hakeem, who will address the environment perspectives and actions from Uganda and globally. So in this session, we have the Mandela Washington Fellows discussing various social justice issues and actions as related to their particular country on the continent of Africa. The format of this session is as follows. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to share. Then we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes for discussion with the Facebook and Zoom audience. Now I turn to Dr. Gambino for any technical information.
Okay. So again, if you would like to engage in live interpretation services, our colleagues will have this enabled in just a moment. And if you wish to listen in Spanish, then please click the globe at the bottom on your Zoom toolbar and select the Spanish feature. Additionally, once more, please feel free to type any questions, comments, ideas into the chat, and we will have time and space for Q&A at the end. But we do intend that the session be very dialogic, so we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, and without further ado, we turn to Arthur Tanaka.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, all. My name is Tanaka Mparadzi. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I will be discussing anti-trafficking issues in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a source, a destination, and transit point for human trafficking perpetrated by criminal networks. Victim intimidation occurs in Zimbabwe, with victims being forced by traffickers to pay money under juries in exchange for avoidance to prevent being killed. The COVID-19 pandemic led to an increase in forced child labor, sex trafficking, and child marriages. Human trafficking and irregular migration in Zimbabwe is facilitated by complicit cross-border transporters and corrupt border management between the borders of Zimbabwe and South Africa. Human trafficking in Zimbabwe. Is the organization and non-governmental organization in Zimbabwe, Trafficking in Persons Advocate Network Trust. We are working with communities. We want to educate them so that they are aware of human trafficking risks that young people and children are at, especially with the economic conditions that is facing the country. Somebody comes along and asks or promises a good job and takes the child abroad, just like with the neighboring countries in South Africa or Botswana. And once they leave the remote areas, the parents of the child, they will never hear from them, either their child or the person who took their child with them. Another scenario that happens in the country is among families where relatives in the urban cities visit relatives in the remote areas. They ask for the young children or the young people to come and stay with them, work as maids or gardeners while they attend school. But once the children or young adults leave the villages, the promises will never confirm. They will rarely attend school, and they normally suffer from abuses like physical abuse, emotional abuse, and they end up not going to school as promised by the relatives in the urban areas. Sometimes the poor young girls from the remote areas who are promised for work opportunities, they are sexually abused and impregnated by the husbands of the families they work for. And in the end, they often live under poor conditions, such as sleeping on the floor, ill treatments, or even physically abused. I'll discuss about the socio-economic conditions as a nuisance. Many parents or guardians simply expect that their children and young people will have better lives in the city and also look after them. But a lot then happens after the young adults and children leave the remote areas. It is another form of human trafficking that is taken lightly in the country. High inflation, unemployment, and instability of the local currency has contributed to many young people being trafficked. The worsening socio-economic conditions have pushed for an increase in the trafficking trends in the country, resulting in young women and girls being trafficked to the Middle East in destinations such as Kuwait, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, after responding to false jobs in the job adverts in our local newspapers. Most people are often trafficked for cheap labor and sex work to neighboring countries. Hence, trafficking of young women and girls overseas alerted the government to take corrective measures. Our work as an organization in the anti-trafficking field. Our work revolves around combating human trafficking, research and education, with 4 thematic pillars, which are advocacy, provision of psychosocial support and counseling services, awareness raising, and victim identification. In advocacy and capacity building, we create spaces for advocates to learn from one another, provide professional development opportunities to develop new skills through our training for transformation program. We also offer skills training for re-employment and engage the trafficked victims' family to provide counseling for the purpose of reunification of victims with their families. Survivors have been instrumental in advocating for and guiding the incorporation of trauma-informed and comprehensive approach to human trafficking in the nation. Our engagement as an organization with trafficking survivors who have lived experience on human trafficking have helped us develop programs that are survivor-informed and is crucial for the government's legislators in the policy formulation process. Our impact in the communities. We educate communities through our educational awareness campaigns workshops about risks of trafficking in persons. The survivors we are working with are now able to stand out in their communities and identify red flags on human trafficking. Through victim identification, we facilitate repatriation of victims through collaborations with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Social Welfare by providing them with full details of identified victims, thus the victims' full names, their age, the passport numbers, and the locations in the trafficked destinations. This have highly helped in the repatriation process of the trafficked victims. We also offer psychosocial support and emotional support to the survivors of trafficking in persons through free provision of counseling and therapy sessions. We link trafficking survivors to medical and legal assistance through our collaborative efforts with other non-governmental organizations, such as the Counseling Services Unit supporting trafficking survivors. We provide educational assistance to survivors whenever opportunities arise. What's in our pipeline for our work? We want to work with the police, immigration department, and the bus drivers. Since the bus drivers transport people to the borders and the truck drivers often end up trafficking people as they facilitate illegal border crossing. We also want to engage the lawmakers to effectively craft legislation to curb human trafficking in the nation. We intend to strengthen our work with women groupings that are crossing borders to work in farms in South Africa. We also intend to establish partnerships with existing anti-slavery networks in countries where our young people are being trafficked to. These connections will help provide for physical safety for victims before repatriation and minimize loss of track with victims, which is the most common challenge along the repatriation process. Ways we can work together and prevent trafficking. As a global citizen, we call everyone to take a stand out on the red flags on trafficking in persons. We urge every citizen to understand the risk factors to prevent individuals from being trafficked. It is essential to recognize indicators and signs of human trafficking and get to understand the victim's perspective. Know what to do and who to contact to report trafficking in persons. You are encouraged to share resources with your communities at local and public events. You can report suspected human trafficking to federal law enforcement by calling local hotline numbers in your local countries. Expand awareness in your communities by educating yourselves and communities what human trafficking is and how to recognize signs of exploitation of another person. Understand how vulnerable communities are impacted. Not every person has equal access to the resources they need. You can help make sure they do. Why we need to act. Too many lives have been exposed, suffocating in silence and killing their future with abuse and violence. A lifetime of abuse is not a portion, despised and stigmatized. I hear a cries of shame, affliction, and depression. I can hear a silent shout of despair with multiple times, night after night. And some say slavery is not something from other times, but I say she is not on her own because slavery is real. It exists in the world today. It's called human trafficking. It's the bed, the West, and the cancer. It is sexual trafficking, violence. It's physical, horrible, and sexual abuse. Human trafficking is the introduction of a second voucher in the world. Did you know that in every 30 seconds, another person is being trafficked? There are 45.8 million victims of human trafficking worldwide, and only 1% of them are ever rescued. That means 99% of the victims are never rescued. It breaks my heart, and the average age is 12 years old. They are bought, abused, raped, and sold. Human trafficking, it's an inhuman act at the detriment of the poor. It's not only a global crime, it happens in our own communities. You and I won't stop until everyone is free. We have a duty to do good because she is valuable. Her freedom is not negotiable. Her value is worth more than gold and silver. She deserves to be loved, respected, and applauded with no strings attached. I believe in a world without slavery, a world without child trafficking and sexual exploitation. I believe in the power of freedom, of hope, love, and the freedom to inspire and restore joy. If not now, then when? Her story doesn't end here because she is powerful and courageous. You and I are the key to unlock and restore her freedom. Her life matters, and we will deal with one life at a time. Let's amplify the voices of victims of modern day slavery. Her story is not over yet. Take a stand today to raise a voice for the voiceless. She is not for sale because she is priceless. The time is now for you to be a world changer. Join me today in making history together and fight human trafficking because she deserves. Let's not wait to make an impact until it is late to start. Freedom is legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Author Tanaka. Thank you so much for that. We're going to turn to our next, oh, hold on. Plenty of hand claps for you. Plenty of hand claps for you. We're going to keep questions to the very end. We're going to move over to our next presenter, Ms. Melva from Nigeria. And then our next presenter after Melva will be Ojulua. Thank you. Melva, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amina. I'm going to be I'm trying to share my screen.
You're unable to share screen, and Miss Melva, if you need anything, feel free to ask. We're here to assist.
Okay. Yes, please. Can you share my screen from your end? Can you share my slide from your end?
Sure. If you just direct message me or feel free to email, and I will DM you my email right now.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Oh, Jalua, let me ask you, are you able to, while they take care of the technical, are you able to talk now? Are you feel comfortable now in speaking while they get the technical together?
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's fine. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be part of this conversation. I am Ojo Oluwa Ibiloye from Nigeria. I will share my screen. I will get the conversation started. Let me know. Let me know. Okay. All right.
Yes,
All
beautiful,
right, great.
beautiful, thank you.
Perfect. So it's so meaningful to me to share the same space with my fellow mates, Melva from Nigeria and Tanaka. So briefly this morning, I'll be taking this very great opportunity to share about my work and with focus on the youth, social media, and voting, and of course, democracy in Nigeria. So this, my first slide, these are young Nigerians who have benefited from my work. And then that's me in heart at the right down side corner of the first slide. So let's proceed. Hold on a minute. All right, so our agenda today, so these are the few points I will be talking about. Then just a brief overview about my work. So I, through the youth civic activism in Nigeria, I mentor young Nigerians. We have trained about 700 young Nigerians between the ages of 20 and 35 to develop civic leadership skills to generate policy solutions centered on young people's shared priorities. And we're helping young Nigerians to develop their civic identities, express political stances in creative ways, and meaningfully participate in setting policy agenda. We strongly believe that young people should be co-creators of policy solutions, and we encourage young Nigerians to learn together, talk together, and listen to each other. So we expose young Nigerians to the policy system, the policy cycle, starting from getting a problem to the agenda setting stage, where important stakeholders get to know about a specific community issue, and carrying out advocacy, ensuring that the agenda moves to policy formulation stage and adoption, then to implementation. Then we encourage participatory action research to ensure that young Nigerians are able to evaluate policy choices. So the picture there, I am in the middle, talking to some young Nigerians about the policy process. A quick overview about Nigeria. Nigeria's population is well above 200 million. And then 60% of the population is under the age of 25. That shows that youth constitute quite the largest part of the population. And also to give a brief background about Africa, young Africans constitute 42% of global youth population. So when we think about Africa, think about Nigeria, the youth are important set of people. Youth engagement and participation in democratic process can drive social and political change, which of course I will demonstrate as we proceed how young Nigerians have actively how they have been participating in the political process and the policy process as well. Youth on social media in Nigeria, quite a number of young Nigerians are very comfortable using social media for activism and advocacy, calling the attention of elected officials and the bureaucrats to community issues, to social justice issues. And we have actively used particularly X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp to coordinate social action. Social media has become a primary source of news and information for many young Nigerians because it is on these platforms that they get information that the traditional media are unable to provide. And it offers opportunity for real-time engagement. So these are some of the, like the last election, we had our general elections in February of 2023. And then you can see how young Nigerians are using the platform to provide election updates in real time. And then in 2020, social media was used to coordinate a social action named NSARS, calling for an end to police brutality in Nigeria. So despite that, we still have challenges. In the last election, there are well above 93 million registered voters in Nigeria, and 39% of the population that are eligible to vote in Nigeria are between the ages of 18 and 34, but only 27% of eligible voters participated in the last Nigeria's general election, signifying that young people did not convert their social media activism into meaningful vote. So this is an area that we are still looking to improve, to ensure that young people participate on election day. So we have been able to extend our voices beyond Nigeria through social media. In October 2020, the global community joined us in amplifying our voices for the NSAS protest, and also the significant legislation in Nigeria that now makes it possible for 25-year-old to contest for a seat in the House of Representatives. We achieved that through the hashtag #NotTooYoungToRun bill prior to the 2019 general elections in Nigeria. And it has also encouraged citizen journalism, encouraging local opinion and the free speech. But there's a bit of, in still trying to encourage free speech, digital misinformation and misinformation are issues that we need to tackle. Deliberately, political leaders try to push propaganda and then information that's they intend to use to mislead the minds of the youth. So we are also building capacity of young people to use digital tools to fact check information in order to guide their action. So apart from social media, people also, young people also, they have participated in events like public rally to monitor and follow the vote. And we talk to people that's in the election situation room on the election day, where we encourage young people to follow the picture in the middle. That's during the last election in Nigeria. And beyond that, we also deploy digital tools to add to reach communities where there's no internet connection. So we designed some policy explainers in animation and illustration to also include the people in hard to reach communities. So some quick recommendations where we still need to intensify our efforts to equip young people with critical thinking skills to identify and counter misinformation, promote peaceful and constructive engagement, avoiding violence or incitement, encourage peers to hold political leaders accountable, ensuring their voices are heard. And then to policy makers in Nigeria, we need to develop youth training to stop misinformation while respecting free speech. There's a battle for fact. And then in encouraging dialogue and deliberation, we need to set ground rules that will still accommodate free speech. It also needs partnership from within national partnership, regional partnership, global partnerships to intensify the efforts to ensure that no youth is left behind in the policymaking process. In conclusion, a combination of digital literacy, policy reforms, and inclusive engagement can enhance youth participation and strengthen Nigerian democracy. And when I speak about Nigeria, I'm speaking for Africa as a whole. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. I'll be here for questions and answer later on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ojulua. That was exceptional. Thank you so much. Our next presenter, let's see here, Ms. Melva.
Yes, Dr. Andrea, do you have my slide now? Thank you.
Yes, I sure do. Thank you, Ms. Melva.
And I just want to say here that we have about 10 minutes. So Ms. Melva, you have until 8:43 a.m. Pacific Coast Standard Time here in Los Angeles. So 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and to folks DMing questions, please not a worry, we'll cover as many as possible. All right, Ms. Melva. Here we go.
Thank you. So my name is Nkechinyere Melva Ogoro, and I'll be talking to us about leveraging global citizenship to mitigate the factors that bedevil transformative education. And my focus would be on cultural norms, female subjugation, disability exclusion, and conflict as some of those factors. And as you'll see soon, you'll see a video that will put the work in perspective, and that would more like elaborate on those factors, and we'll see those who are living the experiences themselves. The sound is a bit.
My apologies for the sound being low.
Conflicts, disability explosion in education, and the culture of female subjugation are significant challenges that impede transformative education.
Thank you very much. I hope you found the film both inspiring and thought-provoking. You'll see in the film, in the short film, a culture of female subjugation that has been perpetuated by war, conflict in a community where women are bound to dead warlords and are made to stay married, to stay in their homes and have children without going to school. You see these women telling their stories, some of them crying, and some of them pleading that they really want to go to school. And these are some of the factors, and spurs a powerful question to us, which is, what is our role as global citizens? I'll share from our perspective as an organization and what Catch M Young Initiative has done or is doing so far. One of it is creating awareness. We engage target communities through consultations and gain entry, what we call community entry. Then we source for data. Data is really important in the work that we do, and map refugee populated areas to understand the carrying capacity of existing structures such as schools, health centers, health facilities within each community, basic utilities such as water, lights, that's where any exists. And then we go ahead to find out if there are disability inclusive structures, such as ramps, if at all there are routes in those areas, and if at all there are any school that accepts persons with disability, because they outrightly do not accept them in the schools within the rural communities because they are considered uneducable. Then we identify and mobilize partnerships, including community partnerships. In fact, community partnerships are usually very important to our work because that is how we're able to sustain the solutions that we provide in the communities. And then we engage local government and state partnerships as well, which often are very welcoming and very ready to partner with us to provide solutions. We then mobilize resources. Then we also engage policy advocacy. I've talked about data mining, how we mine data, and then, I've talked about data mining, but now you see from this presentation how storytelling can humanize the issue itself and inspire empathy. So through storytelling, like we have a podcast where we bring people to share their stories, whose stories would ordinarily never be heard. And then we also engage the media, the local media, the social media as well, to share their stories. And No, the last slide moved so fast.
You can call it out to me, Miss Melva, if you want to go back. Miss Melva.
We engage programs and derive more data from. Hello, can we hear me, please?
Yes, Miss Melva, you're coming through right now.
So we engage programs from which we derive more data and communicate, such as our program called Brave Voices, held annually in commemoration with the UN 16 Days of Activism to support inclusive advocacy. And then we engage policymakers across several constituencies within the state, civil society organizations and citizens on several platforms, like I said, mainstream media, social media, and then the local medias. And here is the call to action. Currently, we're working to provide inclusive libraries. We already have like 4 already in the state across several communities, always situated in safe zones, along safe zones within the communities, in the conflicted communities. We're providing psychosocial therapy through volunteers and partners for persons with disability and victims of these conflicts. We also provide mentorship, academic tutoring, and skills training for mentees. Since 2019 till date, we have awarded scholarships to about 20 girls, including persons with disability, for both tertiary education and secondary education. All of this in line with our mission to promote inclusive and qualitative education in rural Ebonyi states and mitigate the odds against literacy and minority rights. We create coalitions for what we call community development acceleration projects to annually set up developmental structures in these communities. And to put it in more perspective, we have been able to set up pad dispensers across community health centers, some schools, KYI literacy centers, as Catch Em Young Initiative literacy centers. And we have as well set up, like I earlier on mentioned, libraries. Now, these serve as developmental structures, whereby where schools are limited or do not exist, our centers serve as alternative learning centers for persons within the community, as information center. And that is also where they come to receive the skill trainings and mentorships. And one of the things that we have found really useful that's helped to achieve our goal is partnerships, collaborations. And as global citizens, we find our place in the world by spurring, giving our voices to spur action against some of the vices and the factors such as female subjugation, exclusion, especially exclusion of women and girls, exclusion of persons with disability within the communities that should be theirs. And we recommend that in a platform like this, for instance, UNESCO being a platform for education and other that spur other developmental engagements, and the people who have the opportunities to hear of issues such as this, to reach out for partnerships and to also engage through some of the projects. Through some of these projects, such as the community library and the other projects that we've listed, we're open to partnerships and we're open to sponsorships. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Melva. Thank you so much. You are receiving hand claps from the audience. At this time, we want to open up the floor for questions. We have about 13, 14 minutes for questions. In the chat, we're also getting some feedback. Awesome. Success Nation, awesome. Awesome. So opening up the floor for questions from the audience. I have a question going back to Arthur Tanaka. You talk about some of the signs. For some people are aware of the signs of exploitation and others are not. For the layperson, can you share some signs of exploitation? Say, for example, if you're on an airplane and something doesn't seem right, or if you're out and about in public, what are signs that people should look for in regards to trafficking?
Yes, so for the signs of trafficking, when it's in the public or you're on plane and you want to recognize that this person is a trafficked victim, normally they are afraid to talk. They don't want to share or even to share their name with the audiences. And you can even see that the person is not feeling comfortable to be in the public. They feel like they are intimidated to talk to anyone, and also they want to hide themselves. They don't want to show up. So those are some of the signs that you should look out for when you want to identify that this person is a trafficked victim.
Okay. And once they identify maybe some characteristics of someone being trafficked, what are some next steps that they should take? You mentioned the police, but for the layperson who has no idea what to do, what are next steps if they feel as if someone is being trafficked?
So the next steps, if you feel that someone is being trafficked, it's better to have a conversation with the victim so that you hear their perception, because some of the trafficked victims, they are afraid when you mention about the law enforcers, because they think that you will drag them to the police and they are in conflict with the law. So you hear their perception. If they are willing for you to take them to a place of safety, it's good that you secure the victim's safety first before reporting the situation to the law enforcers.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Any questions for Arthur Tanaka from our audience? Mr. Ojulua, tell me this. Your topic is very fascinating: youth, social media, democracy, Nigerian youth. Can you give us more context in regards to how this topic came about, and also just the power of social media? When I was coming up, we didn't have access to social media, but if you can talk about more context in regards to how this topic came about, as well as the power of social media for organizing.
Currently, social media serve as a powerful tool or platform for young people to organize. It's like a digital civic space where young people can provide data about events and challenges in their communities. Just like gathering in a physical space and then talking to each other about our community concerns. Like social media has now provided a digital platform where young people can engage in dialogue and deliberation, and of course, use the platform to call the attention of decision makers to certain issues that they want either the legislators to legislate about or the executive to make policy about, and also to hold leaders accountable. And of course, on social media has really served as a transformative agency for policy development. And then we have seen cases whereby administrators or government leaders respond directly to questions or to queries on social media, and we have seen where we have seen changes, significant changes. I will still reference the NSAS social movement in Nigeria of 2020. We mobilized, we organized using the social media, because over the years, young Nigerians have suffered from the hands of Nigerian police brutality, violation of human rights. And because we took to the streets and were confronted with the law enforcement shooting and shooting tear gas and live ammunitions. So we had to move the activism to social media, and we're able to also get the attention of the international community far beyond Nigeria. So it has really been a platform that the young people utilize to bring attention to issues that concern them in their, or issues that matter most to them in their communities and country.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. I think it's really important to look at this as a form of activism, advocacy. You know, here in the United States, we have, in recent years, it's been Black Lives Matter, but before that, Black Arts Movement, it's been Civil Rights Movement. And many of those movements, 60s and beyond, didn't have access to social media. So I'm just reflecting on how those movements could have reached greater capacity internationally if we would have had access to social media. So great perspectives. Thank you so much. And we also have a question here in the queue. Question for Ms. Melva. In your experience, what has been the biggest challenge to achieving inclusivity in education and economic participation generally?
Thank you very much for that question. So in my experience, one of the challenges that I think one of the biggest ones have been the cultural norm. So it takes more than just bringing up a solution. It becomes a process for us to be able to break through cultural barriers, because we have to first of all influence the traditional rulers. We have to first of all get their buy-in, and then it takes longer time before we're able to penetrate with our solutions. But so far, in Ebonyi State, within the rural communities, we've been able to gain grounds in the rural communities, especially where we have community literacy centers, because one of the first things we do is find some of the common challenges of the community. Also, then we're able to also penetrate into the community and then begin to mine data on inclusive education, exclusion happening, female subjugation happenings, and then we're able to partner with them because we've solved one problem for them. Then it makes them feel obligated to working with us to achieve inclusion within the community. And so far, so good. It's been great.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Melva. In the chat we have here from Michael, it's difficult to come up with a brief question. These presentations combine to share insights into some of the vexing issues and challenges facing sub-Saharan countries. With greater public awareness of these issues and challenges in the US and Europe make a difference. Repeating, with greater public awareness of these issues and challenges in the US and Europe make a difference. Clearly, there are gaps, economic resources, etc. Is there also a problematic knowledge awareness gap? So a two-part question coming from Michael. Who would like to respond to that? We have about 5 minutes. Greater public awareness of these issues and challenges.
So I'd like to respond to that. So for instance, yes, it would to the extent that, like I shared, partnership to storytelling. So some of the challenges have persisted because it's not known. So for instance, in Nigeria, it's seen as though the northern part of Nigeria are the people without education the most. Whereas in the southeast, where it's presumed that there is a lot of education going on, that's where I work, and that's where you've watched in that film, that short film. So imagine if there are more awareness, more global awareness of the issues on ground, then that especially research makes it easy for people to have
Well, we're having some technical difficulties here. Let's see. Let's see. Melville.
Engage in these areas that would bring about change in these, more awareness in other. Are we still on?
Yes. We can hear you now.
I think she went out and came back in. Perhaps if someone else would like to offer a thought on Michael's question.
Yes,
Yes.
let me.
All right, you can go, Ojolua.
Okay, let me jump on that just to stress the point that Melva was trying to raise. I think we'll need to empower Africans to tell their stories. Nobody can tell African stories better than Africans. So, and then the media, the local media, that's not really be helpful in telling the African stories. And then I think where efforts can come is to, for global partners to work directly with initiatives like, I think most of the support going to the government, and I think the government and the effects are not really getting down to the right people. So I will encourage a global partnership with initiatives and organizations that are working to bring awareness to some of these issues in Africa. And then management of resources, because accountability has really been an issue, because US government gives out thousands of US dollars, millions of US dollars every year with no result. We need to start asking questions about, okay, what are the resources, where is the money going? So for us to achieve credible results.
Okay. And for the sake of time, Tanaka, 30 seconds, and then we have to wrap up. Do you have any other comment related to this question?
So what I also wanted to say have been said by Ojolua, that nobody can tell the African stories, but it's good to empower the Africans so that they tell their stories better.
Okay. And thank you. I think that's a great closing comment, as I want to say thank you to everyone who has attended this session, especially the presenters. Can we please show them some type of reaction? Give them some love, give them some hand claps. We appreciate you. We also want to say, please continue to follow the symposium through the website, the Facebook page, and the YouTube page. We have an introductory session each day at 9 a.m. Montreal time, and we encourage you to attend to learn more about the symposium if you're able. And many thanks to everyone. I hope that everyone enjoyed this session. I hope that you will join us at 9:30 a.m. for the United States, should I say, as we move forth in the African diaspora to the United States to look at the brutalization of Black bodies. So I hope that you will attend that session at 9:30. And please do not hesitate to contact us or to contact the dialogue through one of the social media platforms or the UNESCO chair. With that said, thank you so much for today. Look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.
Thank you. Awesome.
Melva, Tanaka, it was amazing.
Amazing.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. My connectivity was really poor, but all the same, it was good. Bye.
You did wonderful. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Take care. Take care. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Montreal team. Thank you, interpreters. We love you.
Yes, thank you. Interpreters, technical people, thank you so much. We couldn't do it without you. We appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So Miranda, we're okay to slide out, or I think we're still on live.